If I told you that the man I called Dad wasn't actually my real father, would you believe me? And what if I said I only found out the truth after my whole world had already fallen apart? What then? My name's Alex. I'm 28 now. But my story begins way back when I was just a kid, clueless about the world. I grew up in a small, simple home filled with love. For me, the world was just two people, my mom and the man I called Dad. He wasn't much of a talker, but every morning before school, he'd fix my hair, button my shirt, and silently pat my head. That was his way of showing love. Sometimes I wondered why he was so quiet. Other kids' dads played and laughed with them, but mine just watched from afar. Still, whenever I was scared or crying, he'd come sit beside me without saying a word. And strangely, just sitting next to him made me feel calm. I didn't know then that he was fighting his own storms inside. One day at school, the teacher asked, "Who do you want to be like when you grow up?" Every kid said their dad's name. Without thinking, I said, "I want to be like my dad." When I told him that at home, he smiled faintly. But there was something in his eyes I couldn't read. Maybe it wasn't happiness. Maybe it was fear. That's when my story started taking a turn I never expected. Slowly, I began sensing something was off at home. Mom was often worried, and Dad had become even quieter than before. One night, I overheard them arguing. Mom said, "How long will you keep lying to him?" Dad replied softly, "Until he's ready to know the truth." I didn't understand then, but a strange fear settled in my heart. What truth? And why was it being hidden from me? I didn't know that this question would change my entire life. After that night, I changed. I was just a kid before, carefree. But now everything felt strange. The fear hidden in Mom's eyes, Dad's silence, and that truth I knew nothing about. I tried asking them many times, but they always avoided the topic. Dad would just say, "Not now. I'll tell you everything when the time is right." But that right time felt so far away. Gradually, I started pulling away from them. Where I used to share every little thing, now I stayed quiet. Have you ever felt like the person you trust the most is hiding something from you? It hurts. One day, on my way back from school, I heard my friends talking. They said, "Alex's dad is kind of weird. He never talks to anyone." Usually, I'd ignore it. But that day, their words sank deep. Were my dad really that different? When I got home, I looked at him closely for the first time. There was always a distance in his eyes, like he wanted to say something but couldn't. Then one day, everything changed. Mom suddenly got very sick. The whole house felt heavier. Dad cared for her day and night, but there was always a strange fear on his face. For the first time, I saw him cry, alone, in the dark of night. That night, I realized he wasn't as strong as I thought. But I didn't know the real storm was still to come. A week later, Mom's condition worsened. The doctor said, "Time is very short." The ground seemed to fall from beneath me. That same day, Dad called me over and said, "Alex, the time has come for you to know the truth." My heart started pounding. What truth? Was it the same one I'd been thinking about all this time? I didn't know that in the next few minutes, my whole world would change. I sat in front of him, feeling this strange nervousness. My heart was racing like something terrible was about to happen. He looked at me, but this time, the distance in his eyes was gone. Only pain remained. He said softly, "Alex, after you hear what I'm about to say, you might hate me." Something inside me broke. "What is it?" I asked, my voice trembling. He took a deep breath and said, "I'm not your real father." For a moment, everything stopped. I felt like I'd heard it wrong. I looked at him, hoping he'd say, "I'm joking." But he was silent. And that silence was the biggest truth. Anger, fear, and pain all rushed through me. So then, who is my real dad? He looked down. "He left us before you were born." Tears filled my eyes. So was my entire life a lie? Angrily, I said, "Then why did you lie to me all these years?" He looked at me, tears falling from his eyes this time. "Because I didn't want to lose you." His words touched my heart, but the storm inside me didn't calm. "And Mom?" I asked. He replied softly, "She was always afraid that if you knew the truth, you'd drift away from me." For the first time, I realized this truth wasn't just mine. It was their pain too, hidden for years. But still, one question echoed in my mind. If he's not my real dad, then why did all this happen for me? Then he said something that shook me to the core. "The first time I saw you, you were just 2 days old. And that day, I decided no matter what, I'd never leave you alone." Tears wouldn't stop flowing. Can someone who's not related by blood love this much? I couldn't say anything, just sat quietly. Then he took my hand and said, "But Alex, the real truth is yet to come." I looked at him, surprised. Could there be a bigger truth than this? I didn't know then, but the next few words would change my life forever. I never imagined my world could break so many times in one day. First, I found out he wasn't my real dad, and now he was saying the real truth was still out there. Fear kept growing inside me. "What truth?" I asked softly. He paused, searching for words, then said, "Your mom made a big mistake." I didn't understand. "What mistake?" He closed his eyes, then said, "Your real dad wasn't a good man. He left your mom alone when she needed him the most." Anger rose inside me, at someone I'd never even met. "Then you?" He gave a small, painful smile. "I was your mom's friend back then, and when I saw her like that, I couldn't hold myself back." Everything started to clear up in my mind. "So you adopted us?" He nodded. "Yes, but it wasn't an easy decision. People said a lot, tried to stop me, but I didn't listen to anyone." I was silent. Can someone make such a big decision just out of love? But then another question came. If he did all this for me, why was he always so distant? I asked him that. He looked at me, pain returning to his eyes. "Because I was always afraid." "Afraid of what?" He said softly. "Afraid that one day you'd find out the truth and hate me." Something inside my heart broke. For so many years, he kept his distance because he was scared of losing me. For the first time, I realized every decision, every distance was filled with love. But still, the emptiness inside me didn't go away. Because now I was asking myself, if he's not my real dad, then who am I? Just then, a sudden sound came from Mom's room. We both rushed in. Mom was breathing fast. The doctor was called. And at that moment, I realized I might not have much time left. And whatever truth I needed to know, I had to know it now. Because if I waited, I might spend my whole life asking those questions. That night, standing in a corner of the hospital's white walls, everything felt blurry, like a dream. Mom was in ICU and the doctors kept saying, "We're doing everything we can." But their words didn't have the hope I needed. Dad sat outside, head bowed, silent. I had never seen him so broken. I sat next to him, but silence hung between us. Isn't it strange when you have so much to say but no words come? After a while, he said softly, "If your mom tries to tell you something, listen carefully." His voice was shaking. Fear grew inside me. Was this the last chance? A nurse came and said, "You can go in now, but only for a few minutes." I slowly entered the ICU. Seeing Mom like that, tears welled up. She looked at me and gave a faint smile. "Alex." Her voice was weak. I went to her and held her hand. "Forgive me," she said. I didn't understand. "For what?" She struggled to breathe and said, "I hid the truth from you." My tears fell harder. "But I did it all for your happiness." I couldn't say a word. Then she looked into my eyes and said, "The man sitting outside, he's not your real father. But no one has ever loved you more than he has." Something inside me broke and then mended. She held my hand tighter. "Never let him go." Those words stayed in my heart forever. Then she looked at me one last time and slowly closed her eyes. At that moment, my world truly ended. I came out and looked at Dad, questions in his eyes. I said nothing, just hugged him. For the first time, I hugged him like a son does his father. And right then, I understood. Blood relation isn't what matters. Love is what makes a real bond. But the story didn't end there. Because after Mom was gone, the toughest phase of my life was about to begin. After she left, the house was the same, the people were the same. But everything had changed. Her absence was felt everywhere. Her voice, her laughter, her calling out to me. Everything had suddenly stopped. And the biggest change was in me. I wasn't the same anymore. I became quiet, distant from people, even from myself. Dad was still the same, quiet, calm. But now his silence was even deeper. We lived in the same house, but it felt like we were living in two different worlds. Have you ever felt someone so close, yet so far away? That's how I felt every day. One day I was sitting in my room, looking through Mom's old things. I found a small box. Inside were some old letters and a photo. I picked up the photo. It was Mom with a stranger. I realized, maybe he was my real dad. My hands trembled. Should I know all this? Or would some truths be better left hidden? But my heart refused to accept it. I started reading the letters. Every letter spoke of regret and distance. The man kept apologizing, but never came back. Anger rose again. How could someone just abandon their own child? And then a question struck me. If he was my real dad, then who was Dad? I went downstairs. There he was, sitting silently, as always. I put the photo in front of him. He glanced at it, then looked at me. No surprise in his eyes, like he knew this day would come. I asked softly, "Did you know all along?" He nodded. "Then why never tell me?" He took a deep breath and said, "Because I didn't want you to have any expectations from that man." His words sank deep into my heart. He looked at me and said, "Alex, a real father isn't the one who gives you life. A real father is the one who stands by you through every hardship." Tears filled my eyes. Had I been searching for the wrong person all these years? And the one who was always there? I kept pushing away. That day, I asked myself, am I too late now? Or can everything still be fixed? I didn't know then. that this decision would be the most important of my life. That night, I couldn't sleep. The same question kept spinning in my mind. Am I about to lose the one who never let me go? I started remembering every moment of my life. Every morning when he silently made tea for me. Every day I was sick and he stayed up all night by my side. Every time I was scared and he just came and sat quietly beside me. Could a stranger do all this? Or only a father? And then I realized I never really saw him as Dad. I thought of him just as someone with a duty to fulfill. And that was my biggest mistake. At dawn, I stood outside his room. My heart was pounding. Would I be able to talk to him? Would he understand me? Or was it too late? I knocked on the door. His slow voice came from inside. Come in. I entered. He stood by the window, looking outside. I was quiet for a moment. Then I said softly, Dad. Maybe for the first time, those words came straight from my heart. He looked at me, surprised and teary-eyed. I went to him. Please forgive me. My voice was shaking. I never understood what you did for me. Tears rolled down his face. He said nothing, just hugged me. And in that moment, I found the peace I'd been searching for years. Sometimes, we wander lost in life for so long. And when the truth finally comes, we realize what we were looking for was with us all along. But the story wasn't over yet, because the real test was still ahead. A few weeks later, I got a call from an unknown number. I answered. A voice said, Am I speaking to Alex? Yes, I replied. There was silence for a moment. Then the man said, I'm your real father. The phone almost slipped from my hand. Was he back? And now, I had to make a choice. Do I go back to the past? Or stay with the man who raised me? The phone was in my hand, but I couldn't say a word. After all these years, the man who never really accepted me was now trying to find me. I want to meet you, he said. A storm was raging inside me. On one side, the man I shared blood with. On the other, the man who cared for me all my life without any bond. Have you ever had to make a choice where both paths seem right, but your heart can only pick one? I hung up and went straight to Dad. He looked at me and without a word, understood something was wrong. I told him everything. Silence followed. Then he said softly, If you want to meet him, then meet him. I looked at him surprised. Won't it hurt you? He gave a small smile. A father's job isn't to stop you. It's to understand you. His words touched my heart. And right then, I knew my answer. I called the number back. He answered immediately. Yes, Alex? I took a deep breath and said, I don't want to meet you. Silence on the other end. Then he asked, Why? Tears filled my eyes. Because I already have a father. I hung up. At that moment, a weight lifted off my heart. I looked back. Dad was standing there, tears in his eyes, but this time they were tears of joy, not pain. I went to him and hugged him. You are my real father. He said nothing, just held me tight. And then I understood. Relationships aren't made by blood. They're made by standing together, by love, and the unspoken promise someone keeps. Now, when I look back, I realize the real father wasn't the one who left after birth. It was the one who stood by me through every battle. And maybe that's what true family really means.